Chintamani Stone from James Axler website. It appears to be a trapezodron made of black stone or ore, with glowing striations. However, it is more, or less, than stone. Scientists would not be able to study it completely because it exists only partially in humanity's concept of matter and space. It is more than an artifact, it is a key to doors that were sealed eons ago. Part of the stone was kept in a monastery in Tibet, the second in the Museum of Natural History in Manhattan, and the final piece in the city of Agartha. One ancient South American legend relates that the god Vira built a temple on an island in the Lake Titicaca to hold 3 holy stones called the Kala. Similarly, 3 black stones were venerated by the Muslims in the Kaaba at the Great Mosque in Mecca. There are several traditions associated with the stones, but all agree on its celestial origin. Muslims say that the stones were originally white but turned black after absorbing dark or evil thoughts. In Hungary, near the village of Strigoi, there was a monolith that 19th-century occultists spoke as one of the keys. There was a lot of superstition regarding the stone and the monolith, especially the assertion that if anyone slept in its vicinity that they would be haunted by monstrous nightmares of another world afterwards forever. In many texts the stone is referred to as the Shining Trapezodron. Shining Trapezodron from All Experts Encyclopedia website. The Shining Trapezodron is an artifact in the fictional Cthulhu mythos of H.P. Lovecraft, described in The Hunter of the Dark. It was discovered in Egyptian ruins, in a box of alien construction, by Professor Enoch Bowen before he returned to Providence, Rhode Island in 1844. Members of the Starry Wisdom cult in Providence would awaken the Hunter of the Dark, an aspect of Nyarlathotep, by gazing into the glowing crystal. Summoned from the black gulfs of chaos, this being could show other worlds, other galaxies, and the secrets of arcane and paradoxical knowledge. But he demanded monstrous sacrifices, hinted at by disfigured skeletons that were later found in the church. The Hunter of the Dark was banished by light, and could not cross a lighted area. The Shining Trapezodron is a window on all space and time. It was created on Dark Yuggoth and brought to Earth by the Old Ones, where it was placed in its box eons before the first human beings. It has further history in Atlantis and with the pharaohs of Egypt, until finally it was unearthed and brought to New England. After the death of Robert Blake, who came to grief after discovering the Shining Trapezodron and deciphering texts about it from ancient evil cults, the artifact was removed from the Black Windowless Temple where it was found, and thrown into the deepest channel of Narragansett Bay. Presumably it will stay in the depths until it is once again discovered and brought forth to curse mankind. The crazily angled stone that is the Shining Trapezodron is unlikely to be a true trapezodron because of the Old One's penchant for bizarre non-Euclidean angles. A number of esoteric and suppressed volumes dating back to the Gnostic tradition mentioned the original form of the stone as a trapezodron. An Arab scholar who went by the name of Abdul al-Hazard wrote of it in his 18th-century manuscript, Kitab al-Azif. Von Junzt alluded to it in his Unaussprechlichen Kulten, as did the Ponape scripture and Pins de Vermes mysteries. The most recent mention of the stone is from the 1920s and directly referenced the reason why the stones were called keys. In Buddhist and Taoist, there is the tradition of 8 immortals, 8 masters who reside beneath a mountain on the Chinese-Tibet border. The city, known as Agartha in some legends and Si-Wang-Mu in others, is possibly underground and has been said by many as to be near Lhasa. There have been numerous and dubious reports of explorations of tunnels leading to the city, but the most convincing came from Nicholas Roerich, a Russian artist and mystic. During his travels in Asia in the first decade of the 20th century he heard about 8 immortals and their abode in the mountains. He learned from a native guide about a huge vault inside the Kunlun mountain range where treasures had been stored from the beginning of history and of strange grey people. In the 1920s a high abbot from the Trajalumpo Lamasery entrusted Roerich with a fragment of a magical stone from another world, the Chintamani Stone, alleged to have come from the Sirius system. Ancient Asian texts claim that, when the Son of the Sun descended upon the earth to teach mankind, there fell from the heaven a shield which bore the power of the world. Roerich's wife wrote that the stone possessed a dark luster, like a dark heart, with 4 unknown letters. Roerich recognized the 4 letters on the stone to be Sanskrit and translated them to mean, Through the stars I come. I bring the chalice covered with the shield. Within it I bring a treasure, the gift of Orion. Its radiation was stronger than radium but on a different frequency. Asian legends state that this radiation covers a vast area and influences world events. The main mass of the stone is kept in a tower in the city of the Starborn. According to ancient texts, the stone was sent from Tibet to King Solomon in Jerusalem, who split the stone and made a ring out of one piece. Centuries later Muhammad took 3 other fragments to Mecca. A smaller fragment was sent with Roeric to Europe to help aid the establishment of the League of Nations. With the failure of the League, Roeric returned the fragment to the Trajalumpo Lamasery in Tibet. Supposedly the 13th Dalai Lama decreed that the fragments were to be kept in separate places for safekeeping. During Roeric's journey to Tibet he reported he saw a flying disc, a term he used 2 decades before the phrase was coined. His guide told him it was from the city of Agartha. Roeric speculated that the stone was a form of moldavite, a magnetic mineral said to be a spiritual accelerator. Some historians said that the stone can act as a homing beacon, leading to the man peace and the city of the 8 Immortals. The abbot told Roeric how the Immortals were made of Aran clay, formed by Mu Kung, the sovereign of Eastern Air, and Wang Mu, the queen of the Western Air. A post-Taoist twist is that they are from a planet in the solar system of Sirius and established an outpost in the Tibet mountains to conduct their genetic hybrid experiments. Roeric's theory about the stone is that it is charged with shugs, currents of psychic force. He speculated it resembled an electrical accumulator and may give back, in one way or another, the energy stored within it. For instance, it will increase the spiritual vitality of anyone who touches it, infusing him with knowledge, or enhancing psychic abilities, that allow him to glimpse Agartha, the valley of the 8 Immortals. The stone, according to Balaam, is a key to all futures and everyone's destiny. It is a point of power, a non-technological quantum vortex. Cintamani. Cintamani is a sacred stone which came from Sirius star system. Millions of years ago, during a galactic superwave, a planet orbiting Sirius I exploded. Its fragments traveled in all directions, some of them reaching Earth after long journey through interstellar space. In the last 26,000 years, the positive Agarthans were guardians of Cintamani stones. Throughout the history, they have given pieces of Cintamani to some of those individuals who had the maximum potential positive influence on the human history. King Solomon, Alexander the Great and Akbar were in possession of a piece of Cintamani stone. One piece of Cintamani, previously in Templar possession, was given to Edward Bulwer-Lytton, who revealed the existence of Agartha to humanity in his famous novel The Coming Race. Later the same piece was given to a certain Templar group near Entersburg and then to the Villa girls Divrillarinen, who channeled the technological know-how for first working space program on the surface of the planet since the fall of Atlantis. Another piece was given to Nicholas Roerich, who attempted to achieve world peace with it. His well-known banner piece is a symbol related to the triple Sirius star system. The dark forces, from Inquisition, to Jesuits, to Hitler, were trying to get a piece of Cintamani into their distorted hands, unsuccessfully. Cintamani is the sacred stone of the Brotherhood of the Star, the last true remnant of the mystery schools of light from Atlantis. Many light workers and light warriors belong to the mandala of 144,000 star beings of light who came to planet Earth many incarnations ago to assist in the liberation of this planet and the shift of the ages. Since the opening of the IS portal in December 2014, light is flowing from the galactic central sun, stirred through the facets of the moldavite chalice of the Holy Grail, which is serving as a lens, directed to the 144.000 to trigger their awakening. Cintamani Stone is the next step in this energetic process. Since the start of MOSS, the light forces have asked me to spread pieces of Cintamani Stone among the most awakened light workers and light warriors. At the event, the galactic pulse will flow through Cintamani stones. Each holder of Cintamani Stone will serve as an energy conduit, transmitting energies of the compression breakthrough into the planetary energy grid. One batch of Cintamani stones has been sold, but we have reserved another batch for those light workers and light warriors that are struggling financially, and they will receive the stones free of charge. a very limited quantity of Cintamani stones was put on Stratoprobe 3, a near-space vehicle which I have launched together with my team. Stratoprobe 3 has reached a maximum altitude of about 25 miles 40 kilometers, and the photos it took at that altitude clearly show the curvature of the Earth. I hope this is proof enough for most people that Earth is not flat, or at least that it was not flat on May 19, 2015 when the photo was taken. Cintamani stones are pure light and their energy cannot be misused. They help dissolving implants and strengthen your inner guidance. But be aware that they are strong amplifiers and serve as magnifying lens to show you what is inside of you, in order for you to transform it and make you more ready for your mission so that you can play your part in the planetary liberation process. With the current massive outpouring of information regarding the fabled Holy Grail or Grails, it is impossible to ignore what may be the very first Holy Grail on Earth, the Chintamani Stone, the treasure of the world. Between 1923 to 1928 this stone, which first manifested on Earth many thousands of years before the Cup of Christ, was taken by the great Russian artist and mystic Nicholas Roerich into the heartland of the Far East in order to reunite it with the mother stone it had been separated from, a massive jewel that resided in Shambala, the land of the Immortals. This Chintamani Stone, which is of extraterrestrial origin, had supposedly been brought to Earth by emissaries from a planet orbiting the star Sirius and then handed over to Shambhala's principal resident, the elusive king of the world, a monarch known by many mystics in the East but only by a handful of occultists in the West. In regards to its identity in the Holy Grail legends, the Chintamani Stone appears to be synonymous with the Stone of Heaven, the Holy Grail manifestation mentioned by Wolfram von Eschenbach in his famous Grail rendition known as Parzival, which is regarded by most Grail scholars to be the most complete and authoritative of the Grail legends. The Chintamani Stone certainly fits the profile of Eschenbach's enigmatic Stone of Heaven because, like its literary counterpart, the treasure of the world is said to possess both the power to make a human immortal, as well as to have come to Earth from heaven Sirius, a truth that is supposedly engraved upon it as Sanskrit letters that Roerich once translated as, "Through the stars I come. I bring the chalice Grail covered with the shield." Like Eschenbach's stone, the Chintamani Stone is, apparently, also green in color, since Roerich is on record as also stating that the Chintamani Stone is similar in appearance to a species of meteorite known as Moldavite, which is dark green in color. If the Chintamani Stone is indeed Eschenbach's Stone of Heaven, could it also be the original Philosopher's Stone, which legends assert could turn a base metal into gold and a human into an immortal deity? Could it be the original Holy Grail, the one that was later emulated by all Holy Grails, including the Cup of Christ and the Wood of the True Cross? With so much evidence in its support of its power and existence, it does indeed appear that the study of the Chintamani Stone should warrant special consideration in any contemporary Holy Grail research. The nature and purpose of the Chintamani Stone. Information is scant concerning the Chintamani Stone, but supposedly the extraterrestrial stone is stronger than penetrating radium and its dynamic rays can instantly increase a person's own vibratory frequency while bestowing upon him or her the ability to see into the past and future, evolve into an immortal human being, or even secure world dominion. It has also been suggested that the stone can never be adequately tested scientifically because much of it exists in a higher dimensional frequency than the one we exist within. Other pertinent data regarding the Chintamani Stone maintains that it was brought to Earth by Syrian missionaries during a remote era in order to eventually help precipitate a one-world civilization based upon mutual support, love, and equality. In order to effectuate this lofty goal, the Syrians are believed to have, throughout history, made sure that the stone remained in the possession of certain planetary rulers or organizations that have been in the position of influencing the world on a grand scale. Since its arrival on Earth, the Chintamani Stone has, for example, been in the possession of he who is the supreme consciousness governing all of the world from an etheric plane, the king of the world, while parts of it have been in the possession of such acclaimed conquerors and empire builders as King Solomon, Genghis Khan and Akbar the Great. There is some indication that one part of the stone has been the sacred stone of the Kaaba, which has united millions of Muslims around the globe. In recent history it is known that a portion of the Chintamani Stone was given to the founders of the League of Nations, whose stated goals were the creation of a one-world civilization free of hate and war. This was the stone that Nicholas Roerich carried back to Shambhala following the collapse of that international organization. One burning question remains in regards to the current whereabouts of the Cintamani Stone. Did Roerich complete his journey to Shambhala? Is the sacred stone back in the land of the Immortals? Most historians agree that Roerich did not technically reach Shambhala but instead arrived in a Tibetan location which is intimately connected to it. One such location is Shigatse, home of the Tashalempo Monastery and headquarters of the Panchen Lama, one of the ruling lamas of Tibet who is sometimes referred to as higher in the planetary spiritual hierarchy than even the Dalai Lama himself. Legends state that there are many underground tunnels connecting the Tashalempo Monastery with Shambhala, and it is an accepted truth that certain incumbent Panchen Lamas have physically traveled there over the course of many hundreds of years. The third Panchen Lama even wrote a book, called Road to Shambhala, within which he outlined directions on how to travel overland to Shambhala. Another salient connection that forever links the Panchen Lama, Shigatse and Shambhala is the Kalachakra Tantra, an intensive form of Tantric Buddhism taught and practiced in both places. During the time that Roerich would have visited Shigatse, the holy Tibetan city was a world headquarters of the Great White Brotherhood and swarming with ascended masters, such as Master Kuthumi and Master Morya, an adept who taught Nicholas and his wife, Helena, the path of Ani Yoga, an alchemical path based upon the teachings of the Kalachakra. Previous to Roerich's visit in Tibet, Madame Blavatsky had similarly made an excursion to Shigatse to study with the Great White Brotherhood and to acquire information for her tomes on esoteric history, which include Isis Unveiled and The Secret Doctrine. One of Blavatsky's students, Alice Bailey, is noted for having later received numerous transmissions regarding Shambhala and the King of the World from the Master Djwhal Kull, who was a resident of Shigatse at the time. From Sirius? Could the Chintamani Stone have really come from Sirius? Did humans have contact with the Sirians in the distant past? Perhaps. In the last century, anthropologists in Mali discovered that some of the African countries' tribes, such as the Dogon and Bozo tribes, claimed to have once had visitations from Syrian missionaries who acted as their teachers. To prove their claims, these tribes revealed some of the obscure information transmitted to them from their manners, which included a knowledge of the Syrian grouping of 3 stars, as well as a knowledge of the moon surrounding certain distant planets in our solar system. Such information could only be acquired through observation with very high-powered telescopes, a luxury these primitive tribes were never in the position to possess. Robert Temple, author of the Sirius Mystery, which records the history of the Dogon people and their encounters with the Syrians, found another possible Earth link with Sirius soon after his book was published. Members of Freemasonry, who had long known of Sirius as the Great White Lodge in the galaxy and commonly depicted it in their lodges as the Blazing Star, contacted Temple and invited him to become an initiate of their organization. Although Temple could not subsequently find explicit indications that Freemasonry had been in direct contact with Syrian missionaries in the past, he did find intriguing clues connecting them to the star Sirius, including the eye within the triangle symbol which currently surmounts the pyramid on the U.S. seal. This triangle, an ancient Freemasonic symbol, depicts the grand architect of the universe and is closely associated with what the Dogon refer to as the Eye of the Universe, the dwarf star Digitaria, that is part of the Trinitized Syrian grouping of stars and recognized by the tribe as the creator of the universe. The U.S. seal eventually became featured on the back of the U.S. dollar bill during the administration of Franklin Roosevelt, who was himself a high-ranking Freemason and Shriner, and before that it was the symbol of the 18th century Illuminati, who sought to achieve the Syrian goal of a one-world civilization, although it is believed they did so with less than purely altruistic intentions. Temple also discovered another clue indicating a close connection between the Freemasons and Sirius. The day of U.S. independence by the Freemasonic Fathers, July 4th, is one of the days of the year when our sun is in its closest alignment with Sirius. The return of the Chintamani Stone. When Nicholas Roerich was touring Tibet and Mongolia, he constantly heard cries among the Buddhist monks of "it is the time of Shambhala." According to the monks, the King of the World would soon sweep down from Shambhala with a huge army to destroy all evil upon the earth before declaring himself our planet's eternal ruler. supporting his inevitable rule was destined to be the Chintamani Stone, which currently resides in the King's Tower in the very center of Shambhala. Roeric and his menors within the Great White Brotherhood and the Theosophical Society founded by Madame Blavatsky maintain that the army of the King of the World is, in truth, a power emanating from Shambhala that continually raises the frequency of our planet. It was, for example, this power that fueled WWI and, ultimately, led to the fall of the Third Reich, even after the Nazis attempted to harness it for their own self-serving purposes. Eventually this transformative power will destroy all energetic blockages that exist at a lower frequency than itself, that is, negativity, greed, control, etc., while simultaneously accelerating the evolution of all life forms on Earth. Once it has completed its predestined goal, state the Theosophists, a planetary civilization based upon love and equality will finally emerge. Perhaps then the King of the World and his Chintamani Stone will make their presence known universally to all. The Treasure of the World, Chintamani by Nicholas Roerich. In The Treasure of the World, Chintamani and the Burning of Darkness, we enter the mountains. Both are highly symbolic works illustrating Roerich's belief in the divine fire that in the new era will be brought out of the mountains to illumine human consciousness. The first work is a visual presentation of the Tibetan legend of the Steed of Happiness, on whose back the sacred stone Chintamani, treasure of the world, is carried down from the mountain heights. As the horse descends the craggy mountain pass, everything around it is illuminated by the blue flame emanating from the chest that contains the sacred stone. The cliffs that line the pass seem to be sentinels carved out of stone, guarding the steed's descent. In the burning of darkness the sacred fire is being carried out of an opening in the mountain by a figure in a long white robe. A halo rings his head. Behind him are two similarly garbed and hallowed figures. All three are Mahatmas. Following them are several figures, heads just visible above a rock. One of them is hallowed, the others are not. They include a bald figure with a long beard, apparently a rare self-portrait of the artist. The entire nocturnal landscape is bathed in the unearthly blue lights of the sacred flame. The Burning of Darkness by Nicholas Roerich. Roerich knew that Shambhala is believed to be the earthly link to heaven and that its realm on earth is a secret valley somewhere deep in the Himalayas. There the great masters or Mahatmas of all ages reside, guarding its ancient mysteries until such a time as Rigdan Japo, the legendary ruler of Shambhala, assembles his unconquerable army and leads the warriors in a last battle against the forces of evil. When the enemy has been destroyed, the era of Shambhala, of peace, beauty, and truth will begin. He also knew that for the Buddhists, the path to Shambhala is the path to enlightenment and that righteous seekers are guided on their way by a multitude of symbols, signs and messages.